And you're very welcome. It's the beautiful truth, along with the outsiders. This is Fintan Dunne reporting, and I'm joined by Jack, by Bert, and by John of the Outsiders. Jack, are you there, buddy?
I am Fintan. Thank you. Good evening. And for our listeners, here's a man who needs no introduction. He's the epitome of no nonsense. Take no prisoners journalism. He's unafraid of controversy. He's just unafraid. He's always interesting, always informative, always entertaining. He's the mind behind The Beautiful Truth and breakfornews.com. It's Fintan Dunne.
Hey, dude, what an introduction. Thank you very much, Jack. And, I know you're the outsiders because you've been there, you've worn that t-shirt, dude, all three of you. So it's great to be joined by you guys tonight. And Jack, you want to just kick things off and take us stateside, is it? What's your angle?
You're the man for just throwing straight into the deep end. So I just figure if you look at what's happening in the States, the only kind of thing to stand in Biden's way is one man that they're trying to prosecute and one man that they're doing their best to libel and destroy. And I wonder on that side, who you think has a good chance of getting into the White House?
Okay. A good chance is Donald J. Trump. That's the boy who's positioned to do it, Jack, I think, because he's got the support base, the fired up support base that really cares, who's going to show up and who's going to come seeking revenge for what happened the last time out. And he's 10 points up in the polls and he has all the momentum. And meanwhile, Biden and crew are heading into a disaster in Ukraine where all of that is just going to be seen as just worthless effort in retrospect. So they're in deep trouble on that front. But
Hi, Finn.
the depth of the change, though, and the scope of the change is not just a little swing of politics here or there. Now Biden and the Democrats have lost huge sections of the Black and Hispanic communities. They've just abandoned them, and the Hispanic in particular as well. So it's a double whammy. And we compare that then with how fired up the base is and all the rest of that. Then the answer for Trump is to win. And then these prosecutions mean nothing. But in any event, even if he had to fight these prosecutions, they're all nothing. None of them would survive Supreme Court scrutiny. None of them, not one. And the first one's already gone down the tubes now with the guy who supposedly cooked the books at Trump's organization saying, yeah, well, okay, Donald Trump never actually told me to cook the books, but, he could have very wanted me to. So, that has collapsed now, that prosecution, for example. So I'm very confident of what the outcome is going to be. The momentum is so strongly with us. And it's not just politics as usual. You've seen the resistance there was in the House of Representatives, where the Gang of 20 hold the balance of power. There are the Gang of 12, I should say, which was the hardcore MAGAs. And they have forced the existing Speaker McCarthy out. And even though they couldn't get their own guy in, they have eventually managed to get a Trump loyalist elected as the Speaker of the House of Representatives. This is a guy who signed on to questioning the election. Whether that's valid questioning or not, of course, remains to be seen. But he signed up to questioning that election, and he was one of the people who helped write the briefs which put forward the argument that you could send alternate slates of electors forward if you had reason to question whether the election was fair and valid with the existing set of electors. So he was an architect of that legal strategy. So that's hardcore MAGA is now running the House of Representatives. That's the scale of the accomplishment of the whole MAGA revolution, because it's not just a political vaporware on TV purchased with advertising. This is tens and tens and tens of thousands of ordinary working class and middle-class people across the United States who come out to the rallies, who are behind Trump, not just now, but have been all the way through the last 4 years, you know? And so this is an unstoppable wave. And none of the disasters of the New World Order that we're seeing play out on the screen is doing them any favors right now as they're going down. And that includes Biden, a puppet for Obama, of course, Obama.
Yeah.
Who's
And Fintan,
yeah,
I wonder, could you, it's John here, I wonder, could you talk about the open borders in America? Yes, it might be to get more votes for the Democrats, but do you think there could be a bigger plan behind the open borders in America and Europe?
Well, it's the ongoing plan, which is that we know we're not going to be able to get away with this after Trump gets back in. It's going to be locked down again. So while it's open season, let's just bring them on in. Let's just bring them on in. Because like they're cheap labor, and plus they'll vote for us, and we can stack the deck with them. We can bus them around the USA, and we can plant them here or there where electorally we think it might be advantageous to us, that have swing or whatever. Yeah. So yes,
would any of these be terrorists?
I'm not sure about it. I think the terrorist angle is overstated. You know, there's already huge vulnerabilities to all kinds of terrorism anyway. So I don't think it particularly adds to it. You know, a properly organized terrorist could just get through that border, and most of the time anyway. But this is open season, absolutely, for that short-term gain, and also because it's compatible with the overall geopolitical political agenda. You know, the whole globalism agenda. But that is dying as we speak, that agenda. So yeah, once Trump is back in, that border gets locked right back down, and then he starts looking at deportation. So I think he's going to go hardcore. He's not going to mess around.
Yeah. Fintan, it's Bert here. Yeah, I was looking recently at statistics coming out of the likes of big cities, the likes of Chicago, who already have huge social, economic problems, and yet the amount of migrants that are coming into are being kind of bussed into Chicago are unprecedented. This is probably something that's obviously in the planning for a long while, but how do you have you any idea of how you stop this, or is there any sort of resistance that kind of can kind of stem the flow of you know, at the end of the day, they're ghettoizing a city that's already has its own troubles, you know?
Yeah. Ghettoizing. Well, they've been doing it, haven't they? You know, Bert, all over the place. And no, there is no way of stopping it, but the Donald J. Trump method of stopping it by winning the presidency and pulling the whole thing down. And that's the only way it's been stopped. The resistance is huge, but what can they do? Because you've got the administration who is pursuing the open borders policy. And so that's it. But once they're out, it stops. And we can see it's already starting to, the whole issue is starting to come to a head in Europe as well. Where we're just about done with all of that now. There's very little political capital left in it. I don't see the whole immigration thing surviving much longer. There's just too much resistance to it, popular resistance and political resistance now. I think we've turned the corner on it. I'm not saying it's all over yet, but we've turned the corner politically on it, I think. So I'm encouraged.
That would be absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things about watching Trump now is he's making great promises. How do you feel about him keeping the promises?
Well, first time out, there was a lot of backstabbing went on, and we know that he lost Mike Flynn as his chief of staff. Mike Flynn was set up and they took Mike Flynn out. That was a clever, devious, and successful move that really robbed him of a right-hand man who would have prevented a lot of the catastrophe of Trump 1. So Trump 2, however, is, you know, like been planned 2 years now. they're in the deep planning 2 years. And it's not just who will they have in the White House this time that won't backstab them. It's also which of the 35,000 people in the various federal and other bureaucratic establishments who are on their list for examination, which 20,000 of those will get dumped. And what 20,000 new people are coming in? Like, this is epic scale clearance of the fucking swamp that they are working on. So that's the deep state included. So if Trump survives this, as JFK himself didn't, then he will be doing what JFK wanted to do to the CIA, except he'll be doing it to the rest of where the entire intelligence establishment spread its tentacles as well, and getting rid of the whole thing. So yeah, huge changes, all pivots on Trump, the most important thing right now. And let me flip it back to you guys then. What do you think of what's playing out in Israel right now and with Hamas, and what issues come to mind to you guys from there? Anybody?
Well, Fintan, a lot of people are thinking it was that Israel was sitting on their hands and allowed Hamas in. It was some would say a 9/11. So there's that side of it. I don't pick sides in this one because they're both, I know someone started it first, but they are very good at giving, both sides are good at giving destruction to the other side. So yeah. I personally don't take a side, but I'm just amazed that of the media, when in the 80s and 90s, Israel could do no wrong, but now the media is on the side of Palestine all over the world, and you can see in America with all the college rallies in favor of Palestine. So I'm not an expert on it. I have a lot of questions, and that would be, why has the media changed its focus? That could be one question. They used to be pro-Israel and now they're pro-Palestine.
Yeah, well, that's always been a political divide in the USA, with the left tending to be pro-Palestinian, you know. So in a sense, what they're doing is milking deep roots of civil rights nobility and trying to dress themselves in that. You know, that's why they adopt it now as an issue, because they're trying to rally their base, because their base has nothing to rally for. So they make it about something political like this. Yeah, they can drag them out for this, you know. So there's a,
or could I be?
Go ahead, yeah.
Or could I be a devil's advocate? It's nearly like we're coming to the end of the petrodollar. So we want a global war. So we're not standing in the way of a world war. Russia, China might take Taiwan. So do you think we're far off the petrodollar ending?
Yeah, but the question is, and I dealt with this in a Conspiracy Cafe episode, which hopefully I'll get highlights up online soon, but because this issue came up there too. And the question is, who started this right now? Who's doing this, and why do they push this button right now? And to me, looking at this, I can't see any advantage for the New World Order having sort of, oh, we'll try and start a big, huge war in the Middle East and everyone will forget about how bad Ukraine was. No, it don't work, that one, because they can't start a big war in the Middle East. They're out of ammunition. You know, that's why in Ukraine now they scrape at the bottom of the barrel, because there ain't any more stuff, you know. So there can't be a world war when the New World Order don't have any stuff to wage a world war with. So no, this is about theatrics of sending the cruisers in and all this stuff. And, you know, that is natural.
Yeah, Fintan, I kind of...
Go ahead, yeah.
I kind of agree with you, Fintan. It all seems to be kind of becoming unraveled. You know, the New World Order plans. There's so much conflict and division that I think that all, you know, everything from going back to the pandemic to lockdowns and everything, there just seems to be so much. It just seems to be so much happening now that it's completely indigestible, and I think people, you know, in general, are starting to kind of realize now that this is just one just absolute shit show.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
let me give you the thesis then, which I outlined, which is that if we're looking at like who is benefiting out of this, is certainly not the NWO. So who? Well, who is resurgent right now? It's the BRICS, and that Iran is the one that they would be going after anyway. So I see this as the Iranians and also Hamas and others feeling that their moment is now. And I think the
Yeah,
impeccable timing of shifting the focus to Israel right when Ukraine is looking for another 60 billion and they now can't get that money out of the House of Representatives.
yeah,
And loyalists decided
yeah,
to go. And this
it,
shifted this focus away from Ukraine at a critical moment. So I see this as a nice move by Hamas. And essentially what they've done is they've said, look, we're not playing this poker game where we raise each other €2 and €5. I raise you back 7, you raise me back 10. You know, we're quitting messing around here. We raise you 2 grand. We raise you 2 grand. It's the whole thing now
yeah,
we're playing. You know, there's
exactly.
no
Yeah,
war or peace, no more bleeding us to death over another decade. It's now, it's fucking now. One or the other, choose. And you know, the pressure the international community is going to bring to bear on Israel has already, and that will have, you know, these aren't the old days when it mattered what the USA thought about you. Know, it matters what China and Russia think about you. It matters whether you get banned by
well,
the BRICS.
yeah. Well, it
Yeah,
has implications for pretty much everyone.
yeah.
So, you know, everyone has an awful lot, you know, more to lose each side. Um,
Hi, Fintan, John again.
Yeah,
You
John. Yeah.
probably know I'm bullish on silver. If the BRICS do become more important with the possible death of the petrodollar, do you think silver or gold or even Bitcoin could go through the sky?
Bitcoin is a very risky asset. I'll do it in reverse order. Bitcoin is a
Yeah,
very risky asset because it's controlled by NWO elements. You know, MasterCard
yeah,
money is right at the heart of it. And so that's one thing, it's a risk. However, you know, it's a play like any play. So that's for players. Silver is a commodity play, which it's more a commodity play. I don't see it as any more than a commodity play, because I think
yes,
gold is where the money will go. And what I
yes,
believe may happen now is that we may get a revaluation of gold by the central banks once they have, and I think they just about have, and things are just about to blow up. And once they've got enough gold on board, then they will let the gold price rise because it'll have to anyway. You got Singapore, and you've got you know, non-London metal exchanges which are ready to exert their power and drive that price to more like 3,500 than 2,000. And that would be
yeah. It's
over
funny.
the course of the next 4 years or so as the entire inflationary fucking tsunami shit hits, you know, because that's
Yeah,
what we're
it's funny
dealing
you
with.
say that because
Yeah.
I cashed in my coins today, and I'm going to use that cash to buy silver. I'm a silver guy, and if I'm wrong, I don't really mind. At least I have something in my hand. I don't like an imaginary coin on a computer.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That is really, really very risky in the current environment. Yeah. No,
To our
that's, and
listeners,
also,
listening
yeah.
in, whatever John does like that is usually he's usually not wrong on these things. Yeah.
And so we turn just briefly to the developments in the United Kingdom, where finally the issue of what happened with the COVID vaccines was debated in the UK Houses of Parliament. And that's the only reference we'll make to that in this video, because that way we will not be infringing any community guidelines. But I'm just saying that personally, I am really celebrating that. And I think the empty chamber was a victory, because it just gave, no words could express the condemnation that these people have brought upon themselves by their absence, as that brave gentleman read into the record, what needed to be read into the record. But yeah, moving on from that, of course, I always feel that we have to have a much broader scope on this issue than just the issue of COVID, which is, it's about what's going on. Yeah, it's the whole of medicine. It's everything about it. Everywhere our own medical system is going right now, what they're doing, how they're spending money, what they're spending it on, the whole, oh yeah, we're improving this, that, no. To me, it's
it's
a disaster.
It's an absolute joke. But I think it's good. It's good to see that, or at least it's encouraging people, TDs and British MPs are speaking.
Absolutely.
The ban, and like even to this day, I mean, the Irish media, they won't kind of give any sort of representation to anyone that questions what went on. But yeah, it's encouraging to see that now are starting to correlate figures of excess deaths due to vaccines and stuff. And although it might be uncomfortable statistics or whatever to digest, it's good to see that now eventually people are addressing this whole nonsense that was imposed on us all. You know, it's crazy.
Yeah. Well, you know, having been involved in other issues, it can take another 5 years before you actually get to any kind of inquiry with any kind of actual teeth that begins to dig into the real truth, you know. But that's just the way it goes. But we're clearly on a path, you know, and I've said that that path is leading us to inevitable conclusions. So there's nobody getting away with this, because the truth is coming out. And once it hits the actual record in a parliament and is read into the record and is there for all time, that changes everything. Whether they like it or not, whether they show up or not, you cannot expunge that. And that then leads to uncomfortable realities having to be faced in the longer term. But it'll be when this crew are not around to take the blame for what all the stuff they did.
Absolutely, Fintan. It comes down to kind of accountability, and whether anyone will, I don't know, if they'll be man enough to fall on their sword. I don't think so personally, but it's very encouraging to see that certain sectors of political realm are kind of starting to kind of acknowledge what has went on. You know.
Yeah, it's been fantastic to see, and so many people have stepped forward, senators and others. So yeah, I've no doubt that. And the establishment knows very well too that the truth is out there lurking, waiting in the dark for them, you know, and so they know that's coming too. But very pleased of where we're at in that. But however, the broader context is the infiltration of the Irish medical system by U.S. capital, by Home Alone, by all of this stuff, and this is it's designed to milk us at minimum cost to the system and extract profit. And the problem we have is we've got pharmacy groups, like big pharmacy groups with like the 10 or 15 outlets around the country, and they're sponsoring stuff like Liveline and sponsoring stuff like, you know, programs on News Talk and RTE, you know, so that the actual the whole, it's not just pharma is now spending ad spend and marketing spend, they're actually doing it
volumes, isn't it?
Yeah, it's literally a takeover, you know, and it's come forward for this vaccine, come forward for the other, you know, get this, get the other, the latest are available, all this stuff. So yeah, it's going to be a people's battle for people's medicine. know? So I'm
I
encouraged that we're armed with the truth, you know. Which is,
Yeah, Fintan, I remember at the start of this pandemic and some RTE show in the afternoon where they had an expert on and giving meanings to dreams. And I don't know how like planned this was, but somebody rang in and said, I had a dream last night that there was a puma in my room or a tiger or a lion, and I was petting it. And the guy goes, well, clearly the lion or the tiger or puma in your dream was COVID. And even though it seems like it's not dangerous, it's extremely dangerous, you know. And so definitely these are people that like we can't listen to because they're bought and sold, you know.
yeah, they're, as the fellow said, they're literally making it up as they go along. Yeah, but
Also, Fintan, you mentioned the CIA there. Now, if like they had said to Trump a long time ago, look, these guys have 11 ways from Sunday to get you, and they've tried everything but the RFK, JFK way. And I just wonder, like, what's if Trump gets back in, will they try something insane? Like, will we see the alien invasion, or will we, like, will they just really try the dirtiest tricks?
that the bit of a problem is that it's this ain't back then. There was a lot of power in mainstream media make people believe things back then. You haven't got that media control anymore. So if they try and take somebody out, they won't have the media control to manage the backlash. So I think that'd be a highly risky strategy. They're prepared to throw everything at him, but you know, in the end, there'll be some backroom boys who will come to him and say, "Look, we fucking cut a deal with you. You know, we cut a deal.
Yeah, I've heard it said
Yeah,
that
give
if
us
Trump
some
wins again,
yeah, just you let us walk and we'll walk with, you know. So what do we get to walk with? You know, so
Yeah.
I could see that as because the political capital behind all of this is like all of it is imploding. This is the final conclusion of the dramatic events that began in November of 1963 with the assassination of JFK
Wow.
and the
Six,
ascension
60
of
years ago
Trump.
this year, Fintan.
Yeah, fuck, hard to believe.
Yeah, yeah.
And yet it's
Yeah.
flipped. And here we have somebody who has very skeptical views on exactly what did happen back then, Donald Trump, who, you know, stands to do to the deep state what JFK was doing.
Well,
In other
Donald
ways,
may not have released the trials, but the files, but he certainly saw them. So if he didn't know going in, because he was close friends with John F. Kennedy Jr., so he probably knew before going in. But when he got in, you know, he saw, he knows. It's one of the reasons they absolutely hate him.
yeah. And the other reason being that he broke Barbara Bush's heart when it turned out that her son could not follow in George Bush's footsteps and move from being governor of Florida to the White House. In the end, he
Yeah.
just got fucking pushed aside by Donald Trump Jr. The Bushes never forgave him for that because it
Yeah.
broke her heart. Truly, it did. Yeah, good. She deserved to have her heart broken, the absolute cold-hearted bitch. So it's
Yeah.
good riddance to that whole era. So this is Obama, this is Bush Senior, this is that whole fuck thing going down the tubes, all hanging on Donald J. Trump Jr. getting back in. So it is something to look forward to because the dynamics are headed inexorably in that direction. Nothing going on the geopolitical stage at the moment is going to divert that outcome, and nothing is going to alter.
That's amazing, Fintan. I tell you, funnily enough, I've seen a number of outbursts from Dick Cheney, and you know, Dick Cheney is saying how you can elect him in, but it'll be the worst thing to happen to America. And I'm thinking, this is coming from Dick Cheney,
Yeah, well, they got rid of all the Cheneys. Yeah, so close the door after you on the way out, guys.
absolutely. And just, do you think if Trump did get in, Fintan? I know we touched on this, but if Trump did get in again, will they release a virus again? Will they CNN or all these mainstream media push for lockdowns to ruin the economy again?
No, it's all over.
No,
It's all over. Yeah, they will. They're throwing shapes like they still could, etc. They like to always pretend they have power, like so that they can try and intimidate us. But the reality is, they had all the advantages there. They had the element of surprise. They had control of the media response. People never saw it coming. They didn't realize they were being lied to. All the advantages. They were able to block us off Twitter, Facebook, every media. And yet we won. We won, not them. We won.
Yeah,
We
I
broke the
agree.
mandate. Yeah.
I think they pushed the boat out too far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
That's
know,
it.
they pushed it to a point where people were. Obviously, there's still people out there that have swallowed it, but yeah, they just it was just too much.
Yeah, and that's our saving
Like
grace.
when I spoke about the totalitarian tiptoe, and then there was this new breed who came in and just tried to just race to the finish line. And when they do that, it's just so much more obvious,
Mm-hmm. So they had a chance there, with all of that going for them. And really right now, what they're doing is trying to sort of play down all the obvious damage that was done and, delay political accountability and try and morph it into some
There's a lot of smoke and mirrors there as well, though, isn't there? With
Sorry?
I was just saying there's a lot of smoke and mirrors there now. There's a lot of distractions going on in the world that they can kind of divert any sort of culpability or whatever. It's like, distract everyone with other stuff that's going on in the world, whether it be the Ukraine war or, obviously what's going on Israel and Palestine.
International media is very tightly controlled in terms of the scope of the agenda. And the way they leapfrog from one monochromatic issue to the freaking next one.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah.
And then they just
what is a woman?
Yeah. It's cute. And it's absolute media control, and it's in Ireland too. And so these are well orchestrated out of an international G7, across the G7. They're information control experts, and they spend a vast amount of controlling the internet, which is why I'm so happy we can still bypass them, get the truth out. Tough luck, guys. Yeah, there's still too many holes in the system, you see.
Thank you so much for this positive news, Fintan. It's fantastic to hear,
Oh yeah, well, it's more positive, I think, for us in Ireland because of our fortunate economic situation. Mm-hmm. It ain't so pleasant in the UK. It's horrible in the UK. I mean, what are you going to do? There's no semblance of any kind of democracy possible there anymore. It's so manipulated. There's no independent political parties. Nothing is just completely controlled. At least we have a bit of Irish anarchy here. What do you think, guys? On the street now, not at the political party.
I don't know.
It's there, Fintan, but I sometimes wonder.
It's on the wane, definitely.
The Irish people certainly. It takes a lot to get them concerned about anything anymore for some reason beyond Netflix and the couch, Yeah. But look, it woke us up in the last couple of years. So maybe there's other people just going, you know what? Yeah, I'm not going to take it.
Maybe we're just a silent minority. I think there's probably a lot of people out there that are thinking the same way, and maybe too scared to kind of speak out, and that's the unfortunate part. But look, at the end of the day, once we have these discussions and we're putting it out there, hopefully people will just start to kind of dig a little bit deeper, start to listen and to ask questions. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think that's underway. There's enough, the dynamics of it are, I think that if you can get 95% of the population to go along with you, well, the 5% who are left are in deep trouble, because that's not going to be nice. But if you can only get about, say, 80% of the population to go along, well, the remaining 20% are far sufficient to resist you, because the 80% were only persuaded by a lot of propaganda. And, they're not really bought in that
compliant.
Much. The 20% who resist you, they are going to fucking resist you to the end. So the 20% you can't overcome. And we're at the fortunate position we're about there. I'd say, and I see it in the vaccine uptake rates and all that, they're all down. You know,
Yeah.
all these
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
attendances at
Very
GP
true.
surgeries are all down. You know, people are staying there. I see it's around 50% of the attendance rates that they were at before. So,
Yeah.
you know, yeah, a lot of people have walked
Yeah.
away quietly. Yeah, just not
That's
participating.
true.
shall we say.
People will have to wake up. You
That's
get the
encouraging.
government you vote for, and you get the government you deserve.
Yes.
That's how you vote. If you
Yeah.
keep voting the same way, you're going to get the same stuff.
Yeah, well, the whole voting thing is really what we have to look at, because the problem is that the party whip system controls the political parties. So it doesn't matter, you know, it's whatever head office tells you to say, you end up having to say. And I'm not
Exactly,
sure.
and I think
Go on, yeah.
yeah, no, I was going to say that like I think the last general election, the population voted for change, and the coalition with obviously Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, and they're kind of, you know, they went back on everything that they had always said and
Yeah. So, well, you know, we had a staged election.
it's just one kind of cyclical pattern, a political pattern, where regardless of who we vote in, it's who is the alternative. You know, who do we vote in? And even like say nationalist parties are completely discredited by the media, and their you know, their agendas or whatever are demonized. And it's nothing got to do with believe it's anything got to do with kind of nationalism. I think it's people, the Irish, variable and so compliant. We were subjugated for so long that I think that it's kind of a case where we just go along with whatever's thrown on our lap, you know, that way. And I'd love to think that maybe down the line we'll all grow a and you know, and demand change, because the way it is at the minute, it's just laughable. We're just literally EU puppets, our TDs, and it's embarrassing and sad more so than anything else to observe.
Well, the only thing going in our favor is, like, from a European political perspective, the Greens and the left are both suffering. And I think that pattern will play out here as well.
Thank God for that.
The Greens
Yeah.
will suffer. And that means that it does open up a possibility of, and to me, the answer to all of this, and what the framers of the Constitution and what the first Dáils should have been aware of, is also the responsibility of the TD to represent their particular constituents and that constituency's views, regardless of what head office says. That's what they're put there by the local constituents. And if the local constituents think A, B, or C is good, bad, or indifferent, then that's the way it is. And I don't want to see any party whips telling us what way to vote. Now, that for that power to go back in their hands, that is to get into to be an independent. And so a lot of rural independents and independent candidates around the country could form an independent network. And I think that there's a possibility that, just on the sort of basic politics of it, they could actually, you know, steal that space that the Greens are occupying at the moment and replace.
Well, that would be amazing, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
That'd be incredible to see.
Possible.
That's what we really need, because a certain individual who has been demonized in the press over, well, not so much lately, but a few years ago, Gemma O'Doherty had said that, like, the Greens were like a watermelon. They were green on the outside and red on the inside. Obviously,
Yes.
being the communist, almost communist rhetoric or whatever, and demands that they're pushing. So yeah, it'd be great to see the back of the Greens. Great to see the back of most of them, actually, to be honest.
Well, you know, it's all over in that whole sphere, because it all only worked when interest rates were 0%, when it was free money. You know, when you have to start borrowing money and paying 5-7% on it and then getting a return on that, which means making a 10% return on investment, then those green projects are all unprofitable. And there's no money there for them anymore. That was always just, you know, trying to just milk it out of the general population, which that's over. Real interest rates are coming, real inflation, perhaps some inflation that will reduce the mortgage and burden for the average person, as we saw in the 70s. All that stuff maybe is coming down the line. But we've probably covered enough for tonight, guys, I reckon. And
That's what I was going to say.
Uh,
We could talk all night.
Thank you so much,
Fintan, you're an absolute
I
legend.
really enjoyed that.
You've really you've given us so much to think about, and our listeners so much to think about. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you know, if we had more educators like you, Fintan, in our educational system, I think we'd be way better off. And thanks so much for talking to us tonight. I really appreciate it.
For our listeners, go on to breakfornews.com and the beautiful truth. That was Fintan Dunne. Thank you.
Thank you, Fintan. Really enjoyed that.
yeah, you too, guys. Thanks for joining me tonight now, Bert and John and Jack. Great to have you outsiders on the inside track here with Fintan Dunne on the beautiful truth. And you'll get us on YouTube at Fintan Dunne on YouTube. And it's been a blast tonight, guys. We'll call it a night. And we'll be back with more, by the way. I'll be bringing you some stuff on the Conspiracy Cafe material on my own channel. And I'm sure the outsider is going to be back with more. I'm looking forward to speaking to them again, too. You have a good one. For now, over and out. This has been Fintan Dunne reporting.